The idea I wanted to share with you all today actually is one of a lot of sort of board game adaptations that I tend to bring into my foreign language classes. So I like playing board games, and my kids are lucky or suffer more because of it. So some of the reasons that I adapt board games to classes is usually because I have some sort of stumbling block or some really sort of tough grammatical feature that I'm trying to get my students to use in an actual context, and it's just not quite happening. So this particular idea is one that I adapted because students at a second year French class often have difficulty using relative pronouns and relative clauses, and if you've studied French in the class past, you're probably thinking, yeah, those gave me fits and nightmares. They're pretty awful in French. So my original intent was to do something that allowed them to give definitions of words using things like, this is a person who does this is an object which, blah, blah, blah. But I think this could be adapted to a number of contexts, just for reviewing different key terminology in a class, whether it's science, whether it's literature, whether it's history, or things like that. So it's kind of an adaptation of the old board game Balderdash, if anybody played that in the 90s. But what you do is you get your students into groups of about 4 people. 4 is ideal. And prior to coming to class, you come up with 4 key terms that you want them to review. For the unit that I used, we're looking at social issues in the French-speaking world, mostly in Africa. So one of the definitions I had was un SDF, une personne qui n'a pas de résidence fixe, a person that doesn't have a home. SDF is an acronym for homelessness. And so what you do is in these groups of 4, each person gets a slip of paper that has a word, a hard word or one of your key terms, and the true definition of the word. So if you're in the group of 4, each person has a different piece, a different word with a definition. And if I were first group leader and I had like synecdoche and that was my word, I would state the word synecdoche, can't even say it in English, that's why I teach French. I would state it to the group, and the other 3 people in the group would each have to write down a fake definition of the word. So, like Heather would come up with an ingredient used in Middle Eastern cooking, and Mary Catherine would come up with a part of a bicycle seat, and then everyone in the group would hand me the definitions. I would read the word and all 4 definitions, so the 3 incorrect ones and the 1 correct definition. Then the rest of the group would each decide and go around and say, I think that number 1 is the correct definition. I think that number 2 is the correct definition. So the way you earn points in this game, if that even matters, is that you get a point for every time that you guess the correct definition, so that if someone were to guess that synecdoche, if Heather said, I think synecdoche is a figure of speech where the part is used, so yes, Heather, you get a point. And then if Mary Catherine guessed that Heather's definition was the true definition because she thinks it's a spice in Middle Eastern cooking, then Heather would get another point for stumping one of her group mates here. So it's kind of a fun way to, and then you would move on to the next person. Mary Catherine would have her little slip of paper and a new word and try and do the same process to the rest of the group. One of the nice things is that it's, for me, it allows students to practice making definitions in another language, which is kind of harder than it sounds like to begin with. But it also kind of gives them a little bit of ownership of both the grammatical feature and teaching each other too, because sometimes in the small groups, if they're messing up the little grammatical bits, one of the other group members can get across why that was wrong more effectively than I sometimes can. So, but anyway, it's just kind of a fun way. It's very low prep. It doesn't take a lot of time to put the game together, and it takes about 10 to 15 minutes for your beginning of your class, depending on if you're doing it in native language or in a language they don't speak quite so well. So that is my, I didn't copy and write trademark this, so just keep it here, but that is my adaptation.